inviting me, and I'm so glad you tried our crackers and liked them. And just all these various speakers here, tough acts to follow. But anyway, here goes. So just a little bit about me. My earliest memories are of my mother and her cooking. I was born in Zambia, which if you don't know, there's South Africa, and then there's Zimbabwe, and then there's Zambia, so it's like Southern Africa. And my mother worked together with my dad in the family business. She was one of those very liberated women who went out to work and worked full-time, but she was also a full-time housewife. So one of the things she did was she made fabulous meals. Every single day we got a fabulous meal on the table. And I remember watching her. I remember all the smells of everything she made. And she cooked all these meals every single day and worked full-time. Except for Sunday. She got the day off on Sunday and we all went out for supper. Not to be outdone or outshone, my dad liked to take credit for some of my mom's culinary skills. And what he said was, you know, the reason why your mom is such a good cook is because I am so fussy. So, fast forward. From Zambia, I went to school in England and then university in Canada. And it was one of those things, coming from a family that is full of entrepreneurs. There's a saying, scratch an Indian, find a businessman. Oh, that kind of comes with my family. So I'm surrounded by, I'm allowed to say that, I'm Indian. So there I am with all these entrepreneurs in the family, and I go to university and all of that, and then I get a job. I actually start working for someone else, which is not usually done in my family. But there was always that itch to do something in terms of being an entrepreneur. And with being foodies and having a public health and business background and the entrepreneur kind of in my genes, it was inevitable that I would get into the food business. So my first venture was actually with Bobo Baby. It was a brand of frozen organic baby food that I launched. It was the first frozen organic baby food in North America. This particular brand was unique in the sense that it was frozen, but it was also free of the top 9 allergens. So as the brand became popular, people started asking us, saying, well, you're making this allergen-free food for our kids. How about making something for us? So I thought, well, you know, it makes sense. And my daughter was getting older, and we're looking at other things that we could make. And so I went out and looked at, well, what kind of allergen-free foods are people looking for? I have a gluten-free, nut-free, soy-free, dairy-free, egg-free, fish-free, shellfish-free, no corn, no sesame, and trust me, there's still stuff you can make. But so we looked at this, and the thing that popped up over and over again was gluten-free. And we have friends and family who are on gluten-free diets, and one of the things we heard from them was there wasn't a huge selection. What was out there very often tasted like cardboard. And if it didn't taste like cardboard, it had a huge long list of ingredients that you look at and go, you can barely pronounce them. That can't possibly be good for you. So I looked at this and I thought, well, okay, let's look at this gluten-free thing. Since it's nut-free, let's make it nut-free as well. About the same time I started looking at the whole gluten-free, nut-free products component, within about a 2-week time period, I got phone calls and emails from 3 different business brokers saying, we have a client interested in buying your Bobo Baby brand. It's like, oh, okay, this is great. So I did that, sold Bobo Baby, and started working full-time on my new company, Martin's Marvelous Naturals. And you're wondering, where does Martin, that name, come from? It's named after my best friend, my husband. So about this time, like the goal, so I set myself a goal. It had to be gluten-free, it had to taste great, and it could not contain xanthanum gum, microcrystalline cellulose, no natural flavor, and what was the other one? Carrageenan, no carrageenan. It had to have real ingredients, things that I would find in my own kitchen. It can't have any of this funky stuff that's made in the lab. So I went out and I got all these different books. I went and looked at World Breads, Jamie Oliver, the Naked Chef, some of my Indian cooking books, my Mexican cooking book, and including this one by John Bishop. And then my brother-in-law, who has a PhD in nutrition, he said, you gotta get this book. It's basically the Food Scientist Bible on food and cooking, the science and lore of the kitchen. And what this said was what gluten does for your food and how it holds everything together, and you can make things without gluten, but then you got to put in xanthan and gum. I'm going, oh, okay. So I went out and got another book, and it's gluten-free baking. And so I went through that, and sure enough, that also said you got to add, you can replace the gluten with this. You got to put in this starch and this gum and cellulose, and I go, well, no, that's really not quite okay with me. I want to make these things without these products. So then I also went out and talked to a whole bunch of people, and I said, well, what kind of things do you want? And of course, the first thing they said was, it has to taste great. Because you go to a lot of parties, and if you're gluten intolerant, you feel like you're sort of ostracized a little bit, because there'll be a little plate of gluten-free crackers, and that's for you. And then there's the really nice crackers for everyone else. And you don't get the gluten-free crackers for everyone else because they taste awful, and no one wants to come to your party. So the goal was to have a one-size-fits-all, in my opinion, where basically, let's make something that you put this out and everyone can eat it. And you don't have to have these guests feel like second-class citizens because they're eating the stuff that tastes really awful. So I went out there, and every time I went shopping, my poor daughter, I had to bribe her with meals at her favorite restaurants in exchange for coming shopping with me, because we'd just buy everything, every single cracker, every single cookie, every single type of granola. Because when I went down to it and looked at the information, I thought, okay, we're going to work on three. We're going to work on granola, we're going to work on crackers, and we're going to work on cookies. Those are the first three things we're going to work on. So when I tried all these different ingredients with my team, kept track of where they were made, what the ingredients were, how they tasted, what we liked about the taste and the ingredients, what did we not like. And also, the next key thing was, how can we make it better and still keep it gluten-free? So the first thing I made, and I think I totally set myself up here, subconsciously, I made a granola. It's a gluten-free granola with a lot of locally sourced ingredients. I thought, that was easy. Going from regular granola to making gluten-free granola, it tastes great, it's easy to make. Little did I know that that's not always how product development works. So the next thing we wanted to make were some crisps. And that's when I realized how important that gluten is for holding everything together. We must have gone through thousands of pounds of flour, and that things got wasted. Some things that were edible but not saleable got donated. Some things got used as feed for animal feed. I hate wasting things and putting it into the dumpster. That was my speech. And so, but it took a lot of perseverance, but it worked. And we launched 4 different types of crisps. Then we went on and we thought, okay, well, what next now? Because it's like, okay, what other stuff can we make? And this was on our list. So then we launched cookies. And we had a fabulous relationship with our neighbor where our bakery is, and she recommended a particular type of equipment. So we thought, well, let's get that equipment, and then we launched the cookies. And the cookies were just a charm. They worked really well. No gluten, no xanthan gum, no cellulose, nothing, and they worked. But all of this not being enough of a challenge, Martin and I set ourselves another goal. The goal of making food with integrity. So the first thing with regards to that is the people that we work with. We employ locally. We pay a living wage. When people said, well, so how is this raise in the minimum wage going to affect you? I said, it's not going to affect us at all. We've never paid minimum wage. We've always paid more. We employ several staff members who are disadvantaged. And we buy fair trade where possible, because it's just the ethical thing to do. In terms of our ingredients, one of the things that we said we would do, we would buy locally as much as possible. Yes, certainly it costs more in a lot of cases, but it actually serves two purposes. The first one is it reduces the carbon footprint. I mean, our buttermilk comes from Port Coquitlam. Our gluten-free oat flour comes from Saskatchewan. So we've kept it so that 90% of our ingredients are now sourced within Canada. There's the other component there too with regards to if we don't support our local farmers, then who will? I mean, there's a huge component with regards to food security. Some other things that we said we would definitely work on, we will use ingredients that we find in our kitchens or that we could readily buy for our own use. And we will not use GMO ingredients. It has taken a lot of work. It was actually really heartening listening to everyone because I thought sometimes I was the only one that was facing these obstacles periodically. But it's been a lot of work, but every product that we've worked on, we've been able to bring it to market successfully. So looking at the current situation, we launched Martin's Marvelous Naturals in April last year. We now have products in 400 stores across Canada, the Pacific Northwest, interestingly, the United Arab Emirates, and most recently in Singapore. I still have my good days and bad days. I think my friends know when I have my bad days when I call up and then go, do you know anyone that wants to buy a food company? But there are special days too, those days when I wake up and I'm usually in bed checking some email before I actually get out of bed. And I get these emails, and the first one I got was, my daughter's allergic to almost everything. But when she found your crisps, she was overjoyed, as she finally found a cracker she can enjoy. Thank you. Or another one here, Martin's Marvelous Crisps are the best crackers I've ever had, gluten-free or otherwise. And this one from a Singapore blogger that came in just a couple of days ago. I was so pleased to find your products in my local supermarket. My son, who is 3, is anaphylactic to peanuts and tree nuts, and he loves the pumpkin seed cranberry crisps. For an allergy mom who is always on the lookout for a different type of snack for my son, and one that the whole family can enjoy, all I can say is thank you. So these are some of the things that keep me going. And my husband and my daughter, who I think has taken on the role that my dad used to have. He's our family food critic. If things pass the Juliet test, they're good for market. Thank you very much.